Ariel Williams is a senior volleyball captain for the Camden-Frontier Redskins and is currently working her way through her senior year. Ariel, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Really well. Now, you have an unbelievable story, and it's a story that I don't think a lot of our listeners know about, and I think that athletics, one of the great things about athletics is the fact that it brings out the best in people, and it's a way of sort of showing determination and overcoming obstacles. And my gosh, have you had a bunch of obstacles. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your story, and then we'll talk about your team. Let's start at the beginning. When did you start playing volleyball? Has it been as long as you can remember?
Yeah, I started playing in 3rd grade, and I managed, and then I played in 7th and 8th, and I made varsity as a freshman. And I played since until I hurt my knee.
So you, as a freshman in high school, you're on varsity. Now, Camden-Frontier, for our listeners, they are always in the middle of the SCAA, title hunt. They've won some championships. They've been right there. On their side, it's usually the Academy and North Adams and Camden kind of battling it out. So as a freshman, you're on a really competitive team. Like, did you get to play as a freshman? Were you involved even that young on the varsity squad?
Yeah, I set, but nothing else. But once I got older and my skills got better, I played more. But I just set back row as a freshman.
So even freshman year, you were part of the rotation. Ariel Williams from Camden-Frontier High School. Now, all right, you mentioned your injury, and that's kind of where this all starts as far as it's a talk about your story. When did you get hurt the first time?
Well, the first time I hurt it in the summer, and I decided not to go to the doctor because...
This is the summer before your junior year?
Yes. And I decided not to go to the doctor because it stopped hurting after a couple days. And at practice, we were at basketball, and then we started volleyball season, and it kept giving out. But as an athlete, you don't think about the rest of your life. You think about your sports season. So I said I'd put it off till volleyball was over, and I wouldn't play basketball if that was the choice. But then I ended up blowing out my knee as something as silly as a cheer because I just kept putting so much wear and tear on my knee that it just gave out.
Heard it over the summer, kept playing volleyball on it. You were also a cheerleader, and you say you blew your knee out. Talk about that experience. Like, what exactly happened that night?
Well, I was jumping up for a cheer, and I came down, and I just felt my knee give out, and it hurt.
Did you know it was bad as soon as you did it, or were you still hopeful that maybe it was no big deal?
I couldn't really remember. I thought I heard it pop, so if I heard it pop, I knew that it was bad, but I couldn't remember, and I think I didn't want to remember.
Right. You just wanted to move on at that point. So you went and got it checked out, and what was the diagnosis after that?
I tore my ACL and my meniscus.
So Ariel she underwent surgery on her knee, and what was the plan? What were they going to try to do the first time?
Well, they took a cadaver ACL and they put it in, and then they stitched my meniscus, which put me on crutches for 6 weeks. And after that, it was just to do therapy and get me back, and hopefully under 6 months.
It was longer than that.
Yeah, and because my knee wouldn't straighten, and they gave me a manipulation because of scar tissue, which they thought was the problem. But after the manipulation, I went back to the doctor, and he didn't know what to do anymore, so he sent me up to MSU. And when I went up to MSU, they said that they think my ACL was in a wrong position. They would have to take it out, which I knew that would be my end of my senior year. And we didn't like that. And then I went up to a college visit in U of M, and my cousin's up there is a big doctor. So he sent me to a guy who specializes in female knee injuries. And we went and saw him, and he thought I tore my meniscus. And they gave me an MRI, and they found out I didn't tear my meniscus, but saw that I had a lot of scar tissue.
So you had a bunch of scar tissue. So where did you go from there? You had some experts look at it. What was the next step?
Well, I had to undergo therapy up at U of M 3 nights a week. And to hopefully, next time I saw the doctor, my muscle would be built back up and I could have my legs straight enough to get surgery and to remove the scar tissue. And we went in on the post-op appointment, or the pre-op appointment, and they had said that I was ready to get surgery and that they didn't know what was going to happen. It could be scar tissue, and if it was scar tissue, they'd take it out and see if I got my range of motion back. And then if that wasn't it, they'd shave my bone, and then they'd shave my graft. And if that all didn't work, then they'd have to take my ACL out. But that had a very low percentage of happening.
Now, what's the timetable? When was all of this happening?
Around the end of school. I got surgery June 3rd.
So right at the end of school in May and then in June they did the surgery. And what did they find out that time?
Well, when they did surgery, they had to take my ACL out.
Completely removed the ACL, the anterior cruciate ligament in your right knee?
Mm-hmm.
And why did they do that? What was that? Why was that the determination that they made?
Well, it never healed, and it was too high up on my knee. I never would have gotten my knee straight at all. Like, I didn't have a chance.
So the ACL was just not in the right spot, and nothing was going to make it so that it was literally holding you back from straightening your knee out.
Yeah.
And so they took the ACL out. Now, I didn't know that you could even walk without an ACL. I'm not an orthopedic surgeon, but they just completely took it out. And what did they tell you then?
Well, when I took it out, my understanding was that I'd have to get it put, I'd have to heal and get it put back in, and I didn't have a chance. But then I went in for my post-op appointment the next day, and my therapist up there, I talked to my doctor to give me the chance because my knee was so stable because of everything that happened and all the scar tissue. So since my knee was so stable, they let me have the chance to try and play.
So this is still back in June?
Yes.
And they said, okay, we're talking to Ariel Williams, senior volleyball captain at Camden-Frontier, a tremendously successful player who had a season-ending knee surgery last year, and she's kind of walking us through all of the different surgeries and things that she's gone through. So in June they said, okay, even without an ACL, maybe you can try to play volleyball this summer. And so when did you start to test it out a little bit?
Well, I started doing therapy to strengthen and get my range of motion back because getting my range of motion back was the most important. And he thought once I got my range of motion back that my lack of stability was going to be like what was going to happen. And I started to get my range of motion back, and my knee was still stable. And then I went into the doctor, and he said, well, we need to start putting you through more strengthening, more running. And so we did that, and then I went in the day before tryouts, and I thought maybe I was going to get a yes or no, but then they put me through this impact program. And the impact program was just a lot of running, a lot of jumping. And then I went September 10th, and they had given me a 2% chance of actually playing this season. But since I had been jumping and playing, doing game-like situations at therapy, they allowed me to play.
What did they say to you, Ariel? I mean, September 10th, this is just like a week ago or a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Did they say to you, play at your own risk? I mean, you are literally playing high-level varsity volleyball with no ACL. This sounds like a potentially risky thing to do to me, even though I'm not a doctor. Did they say, this bad thing could happen if you try it? You have the choice. What did they say? Go ahead and do it. You'll be fine. What did they tell you when they gave you the green light to try to play?
Well, we'd already talked about it before this day and, the risks. I, of course, have a risk of hurting my knee even more. But since it's so stable and it's not becoming unstable when I'm jumping around and running at therapy, they thought, I have the chance. But I have to wear a brace when I play. And I still have to go up to therapy every 2 weeks and get tested. And if I fail my testing, I won't be able to play.
And you were also telling me there was some concern that maybe this was all going to take a toll on your other knee, right?
Yeah, they thought that since I'd been favoring it for so long and that I was still favoring it a little bit, that they thought I would blow out my ACL on my other knee.
Which would be not what you want, obviously. So you've been playing now. You played in a couple of games. How does it feel? Tell our listeners who all have ACLs, what is it like to be playing varsity volleyball with no ACL?
When I'm playing, I don't really think about it, but I guess it's a relief that I get to play, and I just have.
It's not holding you back.
I still.
Do you feel like you're close to the way that you were before this whole thing happened?
I mean, I can't jump as high or run as fast, but I do the best I can, and that's all I can do.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, and we'll talk about the current season here in a second, but talk a little bit about your motivation. Because you went through a lot of trials here, a lot of discouragement. You kept getting bad news, and it just didn't get feeling better. And in the back of your mind, I know that you were so committed and so dedicated to being back to play in your senior year of volleyball, almost willing to take a chance to maybe even hurt yourself down the road to play. Why was volleyball so motivational to you? Why were you so committed to come back?
Well, it's just I've been around it since third grade, and I've been around Coach Vallis, and that's just what I wanted to do. Like, there's nothing else I want to do my senior year besides play volleyball, because it's like what I've grown up doing, and it means a lot to me.
Your parents on board with all that? They're okay with you going out there and trying it even without the ACL?
They're a little shaky about it. I mean, they're still afraid, like, when I'm playing. And, I mean, we had our arguments about it, but I think they realize it's how much I want. And if the doctor is saying that I don't really have a risk of hurting it, but I do, but he's letting me play, he wouldn't let me play if he knew I was going to hurt my knee.
Ariel Williams is an inspirational story. She's undergone multiple surgeries on her right knee, all in the attempt to try to get back to play her senior year, and she joins us tonight on the Timeout Show. That first night that you came back was kind of a bittersweet night because the team got Ariel back. They got their captain back, but then Casey Fowlis, who's probably the biggest hitter on the team, she couldn't play. She had just had an injury over the weekend. So you came back. You're back out there on the court for the first time. What was that first night like? What was the first couple of plays like for you? It had to be kind of exciting for you to finally be back out there playing. At
first, it wasn't like I didn't feel like it was real because I had been practicing before, but as it went on, it felt real and I was happy. And even though we may not have got what we wanted, it was still important to me that I went out there and I didn't think about hurting myself, and I didn't hurt myself. But
I think it's a good point that you made, because it's not, when you have an injury like this, it's not just the physical healing, it's the mental healing. You've got to get to a place where you're confident and you trust it, and I think you're there. You seem to me to be pretty confident with it. And then you finally get Casey back, and the gang's all together, right? Talk about that night when you had the whole group back.
It felt good. I mean, we came out, we played, we did good, and it felt nice to have, like, everyone there and not just someone sitting on the bench because of an injury, and having a healthy team is important. And it was good to know that we have our whole team back.
Absolutely. Now talk a little bit about your squad. Who are some of the other key contributors to the team, and kind of what are your goals going forward as you roll through this season?
Well, we only have a handful of people that came back from varsity last year, and we have 2 freshmen, one Haley Lawson, who is a hitter, and we have Kendall Cooney, who's our libero, so she makes a big contribution and plays back row all the time. She's doing really well. And we have Ellie Spieth, who plays full rotation. We have Kelsey McNeil, who is pretty big on our team, makes a lot of plays. We have Casey, who makes a lot of plays too. And we have everyone makes a part of our team, but yeah, you obviously have the people that actually who you need out there at all times.
You're going to see Casey Fowlis' name in the paper. She's probably going to have the most kills on a night in and night basis. You mentioned Kelsey McNeil, who's just a good all-around athlete and hates to lose. And the thing that I've been hearing from the kids on the team is that this team is united. There's no drama. There's no sort of motive beyond just trying to get as good as you can get as a group. And that's got to be exciting that you're all on the same page like that. And you guys hate to lose. I mean, it just isn't pleasant to be around any of you after you lose a game.
I mean, for the 4 years I've been on varsity, this is definitely the closest team that we've had, and we don't have drama, which is easier to play with. But I mean, we still have our parts where we get mad at each other on the court, but it just happens with any team.
Every team goes through that. Coach Fowlis is, she's been doing this so long, and obviously the opportunity to coach her daughter Casey this year. What's it like playing for Coach Fowlis?
I love playing for her, and I wouldn't play for anyone else. If there would have been a new coach, I wouldn't have played. It's just I've grown up around her. I've managed for her, and I love playing for her. She knows what she's doing.
And the team knows what it's doing as well. You look forward to the rest of the season. Obviously, some of the big games are always North Adams and Hillsdale Academy, and there are some other good teams too. Obviously, Battle Creek St. Phil is loaded every single year. When you look forward to the next couple of weeks, any game sort of on the horizon that your girls are really, really looking at as kind of a game where you can test yourself and kind of see where you're at?
Well, this coming Tuesday we play St. Phil at St. Phil. And then the Tuesday after that, we play Hillsdale Academy at Hillsdale Academy. So those are pretty big games.
Big challenges on the road. What about playing on the road in a hostile environment? Do you enjoy when there's a big crowd, kind of screaming the whole time? Does that kind of get you into it even more?
Yeah, it does. I mean, especially when it's your crowd and not just their crowd, and then you have both your crowds competing for who's louder.
Right. That can make it a lot of fun. Ariel, you have overcome a lot to get to this point, and I know you're having a lot of fun out there, and now you're just trying to win games. But when you talk to other kids at the school or they see what you've accomplished, do you think another thing you can do as a senior is just kind of show some of the younger kids, hey, you can do what you want as long as you stick to it and are committed and determined and have good people around you. You can really do whatever you want. And look what I've done. I'm playing volleyball with no ACL. For me, I think that's going to be part of your legacy, is just what you've overcome to get to this point. And in a way, when you look back at it as an adult, that's going to make it even more special, I think, because of everything that you've gone through.
Yeah, I'll admit I wasn't the hardest worker before,
Right.
but now I've realized that I had to work hard. I didn't have another choice, and having people that are there for you is important too. And also the people that aren't there for you and are doubting you makes a lot of difference. It makes you want to do it more. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's going to be something I look back on forever.
Ariel Williams is a great story. She's one of the many high school athletes in our county who have overcome tremendous obstacles to do what they love. And Camden-Frontier Volleyball definitely in the forefront of the SCAA this year. Keep an eye out for them. And Ariel, best of luck the rest of the season. Thank you.
Thank you.